It's okay. That's what they always say, isn't it? It's okay, like those words can somehow shield us from everything, like they can stitch together what's been torn apart. But it's not okay. None of this is. And maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not supposed to pretend that it is. I carried their hopes, their fears, their trust. I promised I'd bring them home. I promised I'd stand tall, be the unbreakable wall between them and the darkness. But look at me now, sitting in the wreckage of everything I couldn't save. My hands shake, not from weakness, but from the ghosts that cling to my skin. I hear their voices when the world goes quiet, the echoes of the fallen, their laughter now distant, their faces fading like smoke in the cold morning air. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't enough. But you know what? It's okay to feel this, to let it burn, to let it scar, because that pain, that ache in your chest that feels like it might crush you, that's proof you cared. It means you loved. Warriors aren't forged from victories alone. Number. We're made from loss. We're shaped by every failure, every mistake, every moment we thought we couldn't go on, but did anyway. I used to think being strong meant not breaking. But that's a lie. Strength isn't about how well you stand when everything's fine. It's about how you crawl when your legs give out, how you bleed and scream, yet still find a way to keep moving. They don't tell you that, do they? They don't tell you that someday, surviving is the victory. That breathing when your chest feels like it's caving in is an act of defiance. I miss them. Gods, I miss them so much. It feels like I'm drowning in it. I see their faces when I close my eyes, hear their last words in my nightmares. And the guilt, it's heavier than any sword I've ever carried. But I won't run from it. I won't bury it under false smiles or hollow words. This pain, it's mine. I earned it. Every tear, every scar, every sleepless night. It's the price of being human. So yeah, it's okay, not because it doesn't hurt, but because it does. Because that hurt is a reminder that I'm still here, still fighting, still breathing when I thought I couldn't. And if you're listening to this, if you're sitting in your own darkness, feeling like the weight of the world is crushing you, it's okay, not because everything's fine, but because you're still here. Cry if you need to. Scream if you have to. Shatter into 1,000 pieces if that's what it takes. But when the dust settles, when the echoes fade, stand up. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but stand. Even if your knees shake, even if your heart feels like it's held together by nothing but threads of ragged sorrow. You're not weak for breaking. You're strong for surviving. And me? I'll carry them with me. Every name, every face, etched into the core of who I am. They didn't die for nothing. They live in every step I take, every breath I steal from the jaws of defeat. Their stories don't end because they're gone. I am their story now. So yeah, it's not okay. And maybe it never will be. But that's okay too, because I'm still here. And as long as I'm breathing, their light doesn't go out. You know, no one tells you how heavy the silence gets after the battle's over. When the screams fade, when the clash of steel is nothing but a distant echo in your memory. And all that's left is the sound of your own breathing. Ragged, uneven. Proof that you're still here while they're not. They don't tell you how that silence wraps around your throat tighter than any enemy ever could. They don't warn you that survival isn't always a victory. Sometimes it's just a slower kind of death. I sit here, surrounded by ghosts. Not the kind you see, Not the ones from stories meant to scare children, but the real ones. The ones that live in your chest, in the spaces between heartbeats. The ones that whisper your failures back to you when you close your eyes. I can't outrun them. I've tried. I've fought wars, crossed deserts, faced men and monsters alike. But nothing is fiercer than the battle inside my own head. No sword can cut it down. No armor can deflect it. And maybe that's the cruelest part of all this. I thought the hardest battles would be against others, enemies with faces and names. But it's not. The hardest fight is against yourself, against the voice that tells you you're not enough, that you should have saved them, that their blood is on your hands. And no matter how many times you try to drown it out, with bravado, or drink, or distraction, it's always there, waiting in the quiet. But it's okay. Not because it feels okay, but because feeling like this means I haven't given up. Pain is the price of remembrance. Grief is the shadow of love. I grieve because I loved them, because they mattered. And if I numb myself to that, if I pretend it doesn't hurt, then I lose the last piece of them I have left. I can't let that happen. I won't let that happen. You ever notice how people are quick to tell you to move on? As if grief is a switch you can flick off when it becomes inconvenient for others. Time heals all wounds, they say. What a beautiful lie. Time doesn't heal. It just teaches you how to carry the weight without collapsing under it. The wound stays. It becomes part of you, stitched into the fabric of who you are. And that's okay. You don't have to be whole to keep going. You don't have to be unbroken to fight. Look at me. I'm shattered, cracked in places I didn't even know existed. But I'm still breathing, still here. Not because I'm strong, but because I've run out of ways to fall apart. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what strength really is. Not the absence of pain, but the refusal to be defined by it. I remember their faces, every detail, the way they smiled, the sound of their laughter, even the way they held their weapons, like an extension of their soul. I carry that with me. And yeah, it hurts, it burns, but I'd rather feel that pain than forget, because forgetting would mean they're truly gone. So, I talk to the silence. I bleed into the void. I scream without expecting an answer, because even if the world doesn't hear me, I hear me. And that matters. My voice matters. Even if it's broken, even if it's ugly and raw, it's proof that I'm still fighting, even when there's no one left to fight for. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to break, to cry, to fall apart. But don't stay there. Don't let the darkness use you. Let it shape you, mold you into something fierce, something unyielding. Not despite your pain, but because of it. Let it be the forge where your spirit is tempered, not the cage that holds you. You think I don't want to give up? You think I don't wake up some days wishing I could just disappear, vanish, like the people I lost? I've wished for it more times than I can count. But here I am, not because I'm fearless, not because I'm invincible, but because somewhere deep inside, there's a spark that refuses to die, no matter how hard life tries to snuff it out. And that's enough. So if you're out there, drowning in your own silence, suffocating under the weight of everything you've lost, it's okay. Not because it's easy, not because it makes sense, but because feeling this way means you're still fighting, you're still here, and sometimes here is all you need to be. Sometimes I wonder why I'm still here. Why me? Why did I get to survive when they didn't? It's a question that gnaws at me in the dark, sharp as any blade I've ever faced. I sit in the aftermath, surrounded by names I can't forget, faces I'll never see again. And all I can do is ask, why not me? Maybe it should have been me. Maybe I was supposed to fall with them, to bleed out on the same ground where their lives were stolen. But I didn't. I lived. And that's the curse, isn't it? Not dying, but living. Survival isn't a gift. It's a debt. Every breath I take feels like something I owe to the ones who can't anymore. And that debt doesn't get lighter with time. It gets heavier, like dragging chains behind me. Links forged from every moment I failed, every promise I couldn't keep. And yet, here I am, still breathing, still fighting. Not because I'm strong, but because giving up would be the one thing they never taught me how to do. I think about the battles we fought, the ones where victory felt hollow because the cost was too high, the sound of swords clashing, the screams, the blood. It fades eventually, but what stays is the silence. After the unbearable, suffocating silence, it wraps around you, the spaces where voices used to be, where laughter once echoed, and you sit there, drowning in it, pretending you're fine, because that's what warriors are supposed to do, be fine. But I'm not fine. I never was, and maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay to admit that I'm broken, to stop pretending that I carry this weight with ease. Because I don't. I stumble, I fall, I drown in it sometimes. But every time I hit the ground, I get back up. Not because I believe things will get better, but because I refuse to let the darkness be the last thing that defines me. I hate the word strong. You know that? People throw it around like it's some kind of armor. You're strong. You'll get through this. Number strength isn't about getting through it. It's about standing in it, knee-deep in the mess, the pain, the loss, and saying, "This is where I am, and I'm not running." Strength is ugly. It's raw. It's crying until you can't breathe, and then wiping your face and taking another step anyway. I miss them. God, I miss them so much. It feels like my chest might cave in. I'd give anything to hear their voices again, even just for a moment, to laugh with them, to fight beside them. But wishes don't bring back the dead. Grief doesn't come with a map. There's no straight path through it, just jagged edges and dark corners. But you keep walking, not because you know where you're going, but because standing still hurts even more. I talk to them sometimes, in my head. I tell them about my day, about the battles I fought, the scars I earned. I tell them I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for not saving them, for not being enough. But I also tell them I'm still here, that I'm still fighting, because maybe that's the only thing I can do to honor them. Live. Even when it feels like dying would be easier. It's okay to feel lost, to not know how to fix yourself. You're not a problem to be solved. You're a person who's been through hell and came out the other side. Even if you're still covered in ashes, you don't have to be whole to keep going. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to move, one step, then another. Even if all you're doing is surviving. That's enough. I thought grief would fade with time. It doesn't. It just changes shape. Some days, it's a whisper. Other days, it's a scream. But it's always there, the shadow stitched to your soul. And that's okay, because grief is just love with nowhere to go. It's the echo of what mattered. And if it hurts, it means it mattered. So yeah, I'm broken. I'm scarred. I carry more ghosts than I do victories. But I'm here. And if you're hearing this, if you're sitting alone with your own shadows, drowning in your own silence, you're here too. And that matters. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel like you're falling apart. But don't forget, you're still here. And sometimes that